Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Coffee Shop Thursday. It's cold out. Quick, take a quick sip of your coffee before it becomes iced coffee. Yeah. Well, all during this Lenten season on our Thursdays together around the coffee table and in our little coffee shop, hey, meeting Jesus at the table. That's what we're talking about. And we've been in a couple different places so far. And today, in the chapter that I'm reading, we find ourselves back into the house of a Pharisee. Yeah, Pharisee invited Jesus over for dinner. That's crazy, right? We often think of the Pharisees and Jesus being at odds with each other, constantly fighting, war of words, stuff like that. Yeah, that happens. But at the same time, I wonder, why are they always inviting him for dinner? I mean, you can invite him over anytime to have a war of words, but why at dinner? Because dinners were so important back then. When you invited people over, you were inviting people that you really wanted there at that dinner for one reason or another. So why do they want Jesus in their house in the first place? Is it, they're just interested in what he has to say? Or maybe they're kind of intrigued by him, or maybe some of them even think that, wow, you've got something that I need, Jesus, and I want to dig a little bit deeper with this. Or are they trying to trap him in his words so they can do away with him? Well, I think what we see in the Gospels is a little of all of that going on. So, all right, in Luke, the 14th chapter, which is what this particular chapter in the book is based on, they're looking at a banquet that Jesus was invited to, a dinner at a Pharisee's house, and Jesus just kind of whips up Proverbs. And out of the book of Proverbs, he finds one that says, hey, you know what, whenever you're invited to someone's house, don't go to the top seat, the one that sits right next to the host, the seat of importance on his right hand, or even on his left hand for that matter. No, don't do that. Go to the very last seat of the house, the one that's the least important, and wait for your host to invite you to come forward. Yeah, that'll put you in a good light in everyone's eyes, instead of your host looking at you and saying, hey, I reserved that for so-and-so. You're going to have to move. That's embarrassing. You don't want that to happen. All right. But then he goes a little further and he says, you put on all these parties, and I look at who you're inviting, and it's your friends, your rich friends, those who can invite you back to their house later on. And in that day, it was all about transactional relationships. I'll invite you to dinner. If you invite me back, I'll do this for you. I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back. And everything was based on transactions. What can I get out of it? What can you give me? Oh, and I'm willing to give this in exchange for that. Well, Jesus said, wait a minute. Tell you what, when you put on a big fancy meal like this, why don't you go out and invite people in who couldn't afford to pay you back? So there's no transactional stuff going on here at all. You know what's going on? Transformational stuff. You are inviting in people who could never, ever repay you, and you are showing them unconditional love. You are opening wide who comes to the table, who sits at this table. It's not just who's important in your eyes or in the world's eyes. It's who's important in God's eyes. And that's everybody. And that's especially those who are down and out, and who are down on their luck, who are beaten up by society. You have the opportunity to transform their lives. You have the opportunity to enter into a transformational relationship with them, in which it's one of love and not, what do I get out of this? And if I do this for you, this is what I expect you to do for me. No, that's not what it's about. And in a nutshell, that's what this chapter is about. And I would encourage you, if you can, find the book, go get it. And I was told by Arlene in our little Bible study group that we have down at church on Sunday mornings, but you can come, it's 9 o'clock, it's pretty cool, that she discovered that if you have a library card at your local library, you can actually rent, not rent, but check these books out and get them on your tablets at home. Yeah, I think it's a month. It's pretty cool. And this book is available. This book is available at your local library in that form. So I'll talk a little bit more about how that's done, but it's a pretty cool thing. I haven't quite done it yet myself, but I'm going to. But I would like to just look at the very last page of what this author has to say about this. Christ's table invites us to pay attention to who has a place in our church, in our community, in our world. Who has a place at the table, and what is driving that seating arrangement? Is it power? Is it influence? Is it privilege? Or is it trust? World-changing, love-lifting, transformational trust. Christ's words invite us to trust that our survival is not dependent on repaying favors or restricting the seating arrangement. Instead, Christ invites us to trust in the God who opens our doors, who makes room at our tables, and also provides enough. Jesus proclaimed a God whose bread never runs out, whose hospitality is endless, and whose grace can overturn the tables of our weary world. Christ invites us to trust and to set our tables accordingly. Our dining room tables, our boardroom tables, our classroom tables. Christ invites us to make our world more like God's world, where there is always enough and all God's people have a place. Think about those words. Awesome. Great way to move on this Coffee Shop Thursday in the midst of Lent. God's blessings be with you and have an awesome day.